All right, let's update some news of the day. So, apparently, Pastrnak and the Bruins are in agreement. 8-year contract. That's 8. 8, 8, 8. Had to make sure how many fingers I was holding up. Oh, crap. How does this even happen? Anyhow, drink the cherry Dr. Pepper first. Just cherry. Anything cherry flavored, I like it. But anyways, Pastrnak an 8-year deal, I agree. And the odd thing about this is that I also agree with the likely contract for Bo Horvat is 5 years with an annual salary between $5 and $6 million. Of course, the odd thing is, just on the weekend it was being reported it was going to be a bridge deal. And it was a done deal. It would be announced early next week, which would mean this week. Which would mean that news was wrong. 5 years, 6 years, that's fine for Horvat. $5 to $6 million a year is fine. And of course, the comparison people have been making is the Wenberg deal. I think they're completely different players, but I can understand why people make that comparison. As long as Horvat stays a Canuck, I'm happy. As long as Pastrnak stays a Bruin, I'm happy. The Bruins need to take a stand here for their fans. They need to take a stand here for their fans and say, we are not going to let another one get away. Because Bergeron's getting older. Chara's almost done. Krejci is older. All the injuries have taken their toll on Krejci. Backus came in older. There's a lot of pieces on this team that have got older and are going to continue to do that because that's how time works. So the idea that somehow the Bruins don't need to worry about this would be foolhardy. The Boston Bruins absolutely have to keep Pastrnak because their future is, some would argue it's bright. I would argue it's potentially bright. I've said this before, but until prospects play in the NHL, I don't want to bank on them. And there aren't enough prospects right now up front that I think are shoe-ins to be scoring forwards that I'm content right now. I think Boston's going to have trouble scoring as soon as a year from now. They could have trouble scoring this year. So when your number one goal scorer is a restricted free agent, you give him what he wants. And he'll get probably too much money. But when you're a 35 goal scorer and you play for the Bruins, who don't have a ton of goal scorers, and people are going to mention Marchand, and that's fine, but that to me was a career year. I want to see that he can do that twice. I'm not convinced he can do it twice. We'll see. To me, personally, it would be nice to see myself have no more reason to talk about Boston or Vancouver for a while, at least until the season starts. Seeing Horvat under contract would be nice because he is a piece of the next generation. He's not the centerpiece. He's not the franchise player. Pastrnak, yeah, and again, then we're just getting into pick your term. Pasternak's a very good winger. I don't know that Boston has in its system right now that future number one center. They have a lot of good wingers coming up. But again, I'd like to see a center in their system that is a good bet to be a number one guy. They don't have that right now. They have some half-decent options down the road. And the Canucks, I know people are going to say Pettersson, but he just got drafted. It's supposed to be a weak draft class. So I don't want to put more on this kid's shoulders than we otherwise would. So hope is that it'll be Horvat for 5 or 6 years at $5 to $6 million. Say likely 5 years. I'll say maybe they up it to 6 so they get some cost certainty. 5 years would be fine as well. And, you know, if it was a 5-year, $25 million contract, perfect. If it's $30 million, that's fine too. Pastrnak, the numbers are a little bit higher, I would think. I think we're looking at probably 7 or more per season. He scored 70 points last season. So even though they're saying that between the agent and the team there's been no progress on the money, they've agreed on the term. So it's a start. Somewhat of a start. In other news that I'm not going to do a video for on its own, Erik Karlsson may or may not be ready to go for opening night this year. Karlsson played a long time with a major injury. And we all love him for it, and we all agree that he's a warrior for doing it. This is the price you pay for that. Takes a little longer to come back than it would have if he pulled himself out of the lineup. And there's no way he was going to pull himself out of that lineup. And again, I applaud him for it. How many shots do you get at a Stanley Cup in your lifetime? How many shots realistically do you get where your team's going to be in the Final Four and you're going to have a shot at a Stanley Cup? It's not going to happen very often unless you're Pittsburgh or Chicago. For most franchises, a run to the Final Four or beyond is very rare. So Karlsson did the right thing, but now he's got healing to do. And when it's tendons in your foot, well, that's the very basic mechanic of skating. So I'm not surprised that it's potentially going to affect whether or not he's ready for the season opener. The big thing, if you're an Ottawa fan, is make sure he's healthy when he takes the ice. The worst case scenario with any kind of injury like this is rushing. You rush a guy back, you're going to be dealing with some nasty repercussions down the road. And there certainly have been cases of that in the past. Happier note, on a professional tryout, PA Parenteau has been brought into training camp by the Detroit Red Wings. When you see these professional tryouts like this, a lot of the time GMs are trying to fill up rosters. Sometimes you see split squad games. They want to create some competition in training camp, and they want to bring in some veterans to push the kids. I don't know that I see Parenteau as sticking with Detroit. I like PA Parenteau, but I do think that his time in the NHL is probably at the end. I'd be kind of surprised if Detroit signs him. Good player, probably can score 10 to 15 goals for Detroit if he plays, but I don't know that Detroit will go that direction. Detroit needs to make sure that their kids are good to go, and I don't think Parenteau is enough of a difference maker to justify holding one of the kids down. And they've got some decent forward bottom six guys who can hold the fort while the kids are getting ready. This is part of what happens, though, when your team is up against the cap. You end up bringing in a guy in a tryout and hoping that you can sign him for league minimum or near it. And that's probably what Detroit's thinking. You guys can let me know what you think in the comment section below. Hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.